Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this lunchtime talk. I'm Dr. Tian. I'm the program director of HKU Space. Today, I'm going to give a talk which is about one of our new programs, Bioinformatics for Medical Laboratory Technologists. So in this talk, I'm going to talk in two parts. The first part is the background of this course. So basically, why we need to provide such a training course. And then the second part will be focused on the course content itself. So you would know more of our proposed program. So backgrounds, I will separate to three stages. Why bioinformatics, and then why it's important to medical laboratory technologists, and the position of such new program. So we know there's a trend to apply molecular technology in diagnosis, in clinical diagnosis, in medical labs, to find any potential mutation, potential cause of disease. So it's a worldwide trend. It's not only in one city, in one country, but all over the world that new technology are applied. And then such new technology generates a large amount of data, of DNA data or RNA data. So once we have such large amount of data, then we need a proper method to analyze the data, to process data, and then to uncover that clinical significance behind. So basically, we got all the results from those technology, ACGT, but what's the meaning of those data is very important. So I would further elaborate that a large amount of data has been generated from this molecular technology. So we know that the whole genome of one human is more than 3 trillion base pairs, so 3 GB data will be produced just for one human genome. And then we have new technology, which at different level may produce some short reads. Each time it generates a small piece of sequence result, but it could generate many reads, many pieces of that sequence. Or we have the traditional Sanger sequencing, which produce about 1,000 base pairs. And then some more advanced or more recent technology can produce large or longer size of each fragment. So that's all different technology applied, but they produce such data at different level, different lengths, or different depths of sequencing. So it's not like before. All this data has been generated in a pretty quick, pretty fast way. You may heard about Human Genome Project, which took about 20 different university, different institutes to collaborate, and thousands of staff, scientists work together to just sequence one human genome within about 13 years. So now it has been changed. It was not 1990s. Now even one technical staff or one scientist can sequence a human exome just by one machine overnight. It already can generate the result. So all this data has been generated very fast and in a short period of time. So bioinformatics is an interdisciplinary field of biology and computational science. So basically it's used computer to help to support the analysis of biological or medical result. So here is an example that we know this pandemic in the past 3 years. So when SARS came, when SARS-CoV-2 came, so we know the first variant, the first species, which was highly dangerous. Well, nowadays the variant, the species may be less dangerous, but is infected, it's highly infectious. So it's different, but how do we know the relation between these different type of virus? So we have sequence, we know it's genetic information, And then by using bioinformatics, we can compare, we can try to identify the difference, and then try to group them together. So that's where you know there's Delta, there's Omicron, which may also link to their clinical significance. So that example may help you to understand, okay, how this computer software, computer analysis can help in this medical or biological area. So that's bioinformatics, use informatics to support us. Well, the second point is why we talk about MLT, medical laboratory technologies. So we know in Hong Kong, the medical laboratory technologist is a profession who's licensed to practice in the medical or clinical lab. So they are licensed to handle human sample or clinical sample or animal sample. At the moment, most of the local training focus on clinical chemistry, hematology, histopathology, and microbiology. So these four major specialties. So these four major specialties are very important. It covers most of the diagnosis in the hospital. However, now we know that molecular tests are more and more often, more and more widely applied in clinical labs. So in Hong Kong, hospital authority has its long-term plan, which is to nurture a skilled and competent workforce to in line with the important strategy of providing genetic and genomic services in Hong Kong. And moreover, the Hong Kong government in 2020 announced that this genomic medicine is one of the strategic development direction in Hong Kong. So basically, there's a training needs for the skilled skilled workforce to deal with this large amount of data generated from genetic and genomic services. So some of you may know that, okay, in some labs, now this work has been performed by scientific officer or maybe a doctor, but with the application of more and more genetic and genomic services, we can foresee that there would be even larger amount of data generated. So the medical laboratory technologies may be the front line to provide preliminary analysis of this data. So it's very important for them to get trained, to get proper skill and technology to do analysis on this data. So about our proposed program, this program, we call it a postgraduate certificate in bioinformatics for medical laboratory technologies. So it's at a postgraduate level, we expect that students have already hold a degree in related area. Well, this program will focus on the application of using informatic tools to analyze and interpret clinical data. Actually, there are some similar programs in Hong Kong. For example, we know that in university, there's a degree program on bioinformatics, and also some university offer master level program. But most of those programs focus on research side or basic skills to develop computer programs. Well, our program is slightly different because our target students have no background in computer science or mathematics. Our target students are those MLTs. So this program will focus more on the application side. So how to use the software rather than develop software, and then the target sample are the clinical data rather than research data. Well, we hope this program student can successfully complete that within 9 months in part-time because students are working. So it will be mainly delivered in the evening of weekdays or in weekend. So this program aims to provide students with the knowledge in genetic and genomic technology. So basically, you have to understand all those molecular technology currently applied in clinical setting. And then the operational skills of Windows, Linux, those common computing environment for you to set up proper analysis program. And then the fundamental programming skills for the analysis and for the analysis of biomedical and clinical data. So here, you still need to learn some program skills, very fundamental, but for you, how to apply those would be the next step. But first, you have to know how to use those programming software. Well, it also covers the application of those software in different areas. So hopefully that can help you to identify those genetic cause of different disease. So that's the real application in clinical settings. Well, the next part, I would give more details of our program, our proposed program. So that will cover 5 major areas. So the intended learning outcome, what would you expect to learn from this program? And then the details of the module and what award, final award you can achieve, and the resources we have, what resource we have to support your study, and the requirements for you to come to this program. So this program, after you successfully complete this program, we would expect that students can achieve the following learning outcomes. The first point is to explain the principle of genomic technologies. So that's very important because that's where all this data has been generated. And then second point is to retrieve genomic sequences by using appropriate software and database. So the second part, the second outcome is to use those existing database, existing software to analyze the data. So you can try to get the existing data. And then the third outcome is that to develop computer script to complete some fundamental tasks on data processing. So in this step, you already develop your own script which fits to your work environment, your own lab, and then apply that to process the data. And then the fourth step, to apply bioinformatics tool to analyze and interpret genomic data and clinical diagnosis for clinical diagnosis. So in this step, we have all the fundamental skills, and then here are the application, how to handle the real data. Well, in this program, there would be 4 modules. The first module, genetic and genomic technology. And then the second module is the introduction to bioinformatics. The third module is programming for biological data. And the fourth module is the application of bioinformatics in medical laboratories. So again, this 4 module is step by step to teach you from no background. You don't need to have any background in bioinformatics. This program aimed to those students have limited background in bioinformatics. So we learn the technology, we learn the basic bioinformatics, and then we learn the application. So at the moment, this program is planned to launch in March or April time. So please check our website for any updated information. Well, the first module, genetic and genomic technology. So this module aims to provide students fundamental knowledge in molecular genetics and the principle of molecular technology. So this module has mainly lectures and some laboratory practical for you to understand those technology. And there would be 1 examination. This module consists of 9 credits, and then students are expected to complete a coursework on the application of molecular technology in clinical setting, and an examination to reflect your knowledge. So this module covers basic principle of those technology, like the principle of next generation sequencing. We know that after Sanger sequencing, next generation sequencing now is widely applied in clinical setting. And NGS is not one method. Actually, there are different methods in NGS. So we would introduce all different platform, at least those commonly used platform in the medical laboratories, teach you about their principle and compare different technology. Well, the major reason that we would like to introduce different platform, different technology is that it's very important for you to understand where and how the data, the sequence data has been generated, because it's also very important for you to have reliable data, accurate data. So you have to know where the data came from and where could be the possible error or possible problem of those data. So only after you got reliable data, then you can analyze the data successfully. Otherwise, it's no use that you analyze from some non-reliable data. Well, for clinical setting, maybe it's more common that we use target sequencing. So here is also an example that the sequencing performed on some hot or some interest area for analysis. So this data focus on a certain gene or certain region of chromosome produce a large amount of data only about that region. So that can normally those area, those fragment has been already proved that it's linked to a certain disease or certain clinical significance. So we would focus on that, and then students can know what other technology can help you to understand this target sequencing. Well, here are those general topics covered in the first module. Well, the first part is a revision of genetics. So that's the very important area, genetics. So for you to understand all the technology and as well as the further analysis. So there would be a revision. Don't worry, I'm sure that most students who would like to apply, who would like to study bioinformatics, definitely already have studied genetics before. So that's only a recap. And then the second part is PCR and Sanger sequencing, some commonly used traditional method in clinical setting. So we are not only covered the traditional PCR, here are all PCR related methods, like the real-time PCR, and then the digital PCR, all these methods. And next step, we would focus on the next generation sequencing and third generation sequencing. Different platform will be covered, as I mentioned before. So maybe in local markets that we have Illumina, we have iron tolerant sequencing, and then we also have some different platform provided by different company and used in different lab settings. So those commonly used platform will be covered. And then besides this sequencing platform, we would also introduce like DNA array, microarray, and RNA sequencing. Although it's very common that this technology applied in current medical setting focus on DNA sequencing, but RNA sequencing is also a very important, because basically when we analyze the expression or when we see whether it's affect the messenger RNA, the transcript, or the transcription or the translation, then we would focus on the RNA sequencing, RNA sequence as well, that may affect amino acid sequence, and then finally results a different protein. So that's also an important part. Well, the different application, different use of target sequencing, whole genome sequencing, and whole exome sequencing will be further introduced, and then that may be more common in clinical setting as the genome, as the exomal sequencing, which is the coding part of the gene. Well, this module will also cover other omic technology. So, okay, genomic, of course, is very important in clinical setting, but we would also cover that metabolomics, transcriptomics, all those other omic technologies. So we hope this module can also provide students a wider understanding of the modern technology used in clinical setting. Well, the last but not least, which is the important topic, ethics, legal, privacy, and security. Because once we talk about genetics, once we talk about gene sequence, it has a very important factor that the gene itself is not only linked to one person, it may link to a whole family. So once there's the mutation, once there's different sequencing, it may not happen in one individual. It may be inherited from the parents, and it may be passed to the next generation. So there's a very important ethics issue here. And moreover, all this DNA data, because it's linked to disease, it has the clinical significance. So it's also important in terms of legal, and it's private data. So how could we handle this data in a proper way? And how could we ensure that the data is only used for its design purpose? That's very important. We need to ensure that everyone handle this data, understand its boundary first. Well, next module. So after we recapped the genetics, and after we study all the platform, all the technology which generate the data, so module 2 would be the introduction to bioinformatics. So this program, this module will provide the knowledge of the computing environment and skills of using common genetic database and software. So this module will introduce like the common setting for Windows, Linux, or Mac computer. And then, so once you understand this computer setting, including the network, including the basic factor, then it helps you for the next step, how to install, how to use those bioinformatics tools basically in the next module. So this module consists of lectures plus tutorials, and then it's a smaller module which consists of 6 credits only, and then the assessments of this module focused on the coursework, which students are expected to produce the worksheet and lab reports, because this module is also applied in terms of computer setting. And the other important part of this module is the existing database and existing software. So at this stage, you don't need any programming skill, but use those web-based or commercial available software, or some software are free software, you don't need to pay, but you use those to download, to retrieve the existing data from common databases. So here are some examples. So how would you get the data from like UCSC genome browser, how to compare that? This module will also cover that the common sequence file, like FASTA, like BAM, the different file, different structure of the file. So it's a fundamental knowledge for you to process data in the next step. For the computing environment, so to set up proper software for you to use. Well, I'm sure most students are very familiar with Windows-based computer, or some students may use MacBook or iPad. So it's not very challenging. But a lot of bioinformatics software is Linux-based or Unix-based software. That's another important component in this module, that students learn a little bit of Linux, the command line, how to use those commands. So here are the major topics in module 2. We have common database and software. Those existing software like GenBank, like Ensemble USSD, all those existing websites. And then you will also learn those software, web-based different software available for you to provide initial analysis. Well, by talking about this existing software, I know that in some lab, after sequencing, after single sequencing, that some of the analysis actually is I was surprised it was still manually analyzed, because those sequencing results focus on a target gene and then focus on some hotspot, and very experienced staff, very experienced scientists actually by naked eye, by manually can analyze, can find out the target and then to identify whether it's normal or it's mutation there. But once we got a large amount of data, we got a longer sequence, or sometimes if it's an unknown mutation, we don't know exactly where it is. It's impossible for a person to analyze that. So that's why we introduced the common software for you to analyze at beginning, at this preliminary stage. The second topic is about data format and sequencing result. So it's about all those raw data. Once it's produced, what's the format, and then it's also help you to understand in the next data processing step, how would you handle all this data? Well, the third point is about genome-wide association study. You won't really perform a study, but we would introduce what is genome-wide association study. So this genome-wide association study would help you to understand, once you identify some difference in terms of a genetic sequence, how would you know it's linked to a disease or it's just the normal polymorphism. So we know that each individual, each person actually are different from another one. If we just compare me and you, probably there would be about 0.5% of the DNA sequence of our genome sequence are different. But those different may not link to any disease. So how would we associate the genome difference to a disease? So in this topic, we would understand that. And then after all this part, we would introduce the computing environment to you. So you will know how to set up Windows, how to set up Linux to be prepared for the next step analysis. And then introduction to Linux, so some basic command line will be learned. Don't worry, that's very fundamental, and we have arranged several tutorials for you. So tutors and demonstrators will show you how to do it step by step. The last point is how to use Git, distributed version control system. So from this system, you can later download those software, those scripts developed by others, and then you can also modify or further develop those scripts based on your own needs. It's a very powerful system, and there are a lot of available software, existing software there, which developed by those bioinformaticians or other scientists all over the world. So you don't need to build from very beginning. You already have those tools, so you can use that. Well, more detail will be covered in module 4, that when we talk about application. Well, the third module will teach you some fundamental programming skills. So that's programming for biological data. Well, this module aims to provide biostatistics, fundamental R programming, and its application to students. Well, I know for some students, we will see statistics, we will see programming. Oh, it's very challenging, but don't worry. This module covers lectures and a large amount of tutorial. So such tutorial will help you to try out, to practice, and ensure you can handle this. This module consists of 9 credits, and then there would be 2 coursework, including 2 R script, and then 2 worksheet or reports, and written examination. So statistics, well, biostatistics is very important for bioinformatics, for data analysis, because for analysis, well, no matter how you use that, you can get some result, but whether that result says something, whether the result is useful, whether the result is significant or not, whether it's linked to any clinical significance, that's another story. So we need statistics to help us to see how whether we can trust the result or not, how reliable the result is. Well, the second part is R programming. So R is a computer language, which is commonly used in bioinformatics. Well, this R program, well, is very powerful in biostatistics, but for bioinformatics, there are many existing packages available for R. So those package, you can download many of them, most of them that are free to use. And then R programming is also very powerful in drawing this graphic, so help you to visualize your result. That's also an advantage of R programming. So in this module, all this will be covered from very beginning. The module 3 covers the following major topics: revision of statistics. So those very fundamental statistical concepts will be covered, help you to remember that, and biostatistics. So basically, those statistics used for biological science. So how would you analyze 2 sets of data and then compare whether there's a change, there's an increase, there's a decrease before and after a certain condition. So that's biostatistics, basically those p-values and then t-tests and then all those tests. Well, that's some mathematics part. Well, the second part of this module will focus on this computer language, introduction to R, where you can download R, how to install R in your own computer. And then the next step would be the basic R programming, some very fundamental, very essential language of R, how to handle those data, how to handle those data files, how to input the data, how to extract the data, and how to write out, how to output the data here. It will be tutorial assist lecture, so don't worry about that. Well, the next step is the last topic. It's a large topic, R for bioinformatics. So here we would introduce those commonly used R package, all those websites where you can find existing R package like CRAN or other platform, bioconductor. So from those websites, those data, it's not a database, it's a website that you can find existing R package, and then how to apply those different application of those those script or those program, and then for some analysis or for many analysis, many application scenario that you cannot only use one software to complete the task from beginning to the end. Okay, the first step, maybe you need to clean up the raw data generated from all those platform you learned from the first module. Well, the second step, well, you need to maybe link them together, and then to remove, to delete those unnecessary data, those unreliable data. Well, the next step is maybe you start to process the data, to analyze, to compare that. And then the last step, you want to show your result in a very nice format. So that may require 3 or 4 different software to do step by step. And then by using simple by your programming skill, you may link those input output step by step together. So you don't need to do one by one or manually. You can use computer to make it a highly automated process. Well, that's module 3. A little bit, I would say, a little bit challenging, but it's very useful module. Well, module 4 is the last module, and then is very useful for clinical setting, because this module focuses on the application of bioinformatics in medical laboratory. This module will provide the bioinformatics tool commonly applied in different sectors, different departments in clinical laboratories. So we would have a lot of examples, demonstration, and the real data analysis here. So for you to apply the skills you learned in previous 2 modules, the computer setting and programming setting, here you study the real application. So this module consists of 24 hours lecture and 12 hours tutorials, which is the 6 credit module. Because it's the application module, so we won't have any examination, but the application, so you would generate a work report, you have to produce results to interpret the results from the data provided to you. Well, the application, like the left-hand side is, well, finally, we hope the student from this program would be able to analyze data and produce very nice reports, visualize the result. And then from right-hand side, there's an example of the application of bioinformatics. So to align, although that's a very straightforward alignment, there's a few patients which was infected by COVID-19. And then because this infection, this patient happens in the hospital, but they happen in different sector. So there's an important question for the management of the hospital to ask is that, is there transmission, is there infection inside the hospital, or are they just different patients come from outside and then it happened independently? So bioinformatics can help you to analyze those sequences, is COVID sequence, and then compare that, identify whether there's an evolutional linkage or it's completely separate event. So from the analysis, finally that reports come out and find, okay, these 2 cases are not linked because on one side there's a unique mutation and the other side doesn't have. And then it's very unlikely that these 2 happen together because it got a few unique features. Well, that's the application for bioinformatics in the clinical setting. It can answer direct questions which in the medical laboratories. Well, the module 4, we would focus on the application in the following major areas, like in hematology, in microbiology. I gave several examples of COVID. So microbiology now use bioinformatics a lot, heavily rely on bioinformatics. And then the bioinformatics in pathology, especially like in those cancer research. And we know that nowadays, a lot of cancer treatments tend to what we call it precision medicine. So different mutations in that in the target gene in the cancer in the tumor tissue, it may require different type of drug, different treatment. So from bioinformatics, how it's produce reliable results or useful information for the doctors to prescribe appropriate drug is also important application. Well, bioinformatics also used for those prenatal laboratories to identify any potential disease, especially those genetic variation, genetic mutation are not only affect one person, it may affect the next generation. So bioinformatics also used to help those parents to support those family plans. Well, besides the application in different in individual department, individual area, another important or key point for this module is the data quality assurance. Well, you may use some software before, no matter what type of software or database. Well, basically, you always can generate results from those bioinformatics software, unless at the beginning your input is wrong. You input a protein sequence to a DNA analysis software, then definitely it's give you some error. But otherwise, you just randomly pick up some DNA sequence, you input to the software, it always give you a result. But how reliable this result is, that's one question. And then the other question is, does this result has any meaning inside? So you show the difference between each individual patient, between health and between health individual and the patient, but would that link to the disease, or it's just polymorphism? It doesn't have any effect to gene expression level, to the function of the protein, to the structure. So that's a question. So how to ensure that the data quality, the result quality is good enough. So this data quality assurance would focus on this. On one side is the input data, the raw data, the input data, how to ensure that data is good, the quality is, it meet the standard to produce the analysis. And then another side is, once we got the result, how would we ensure this result can link to the clinical significance? So that's very important. That's the application. And then in this module, we would probably cover the following softwares. Well, that here only this example, more and more software in different areas will be covered. So some example like those software to process those short reads. We know some platform produce very short reads, but a lot of data, but other platform may produce a longer reads. So that's the first initial treatment of data is different already. Or some software can help you to identify the to detect those inserts or deletion from your data. And then a certain software maybe only focus on those important gene, important sequence, which happen in maybe the cells in bone marrow. And then other type of database or other type of analysis for a certain target like SARS-CoV-2. So all this will be introduced one by one. So for you to have a general idea of application in different departments. So hopefully that would also help you to further develop your own software or your own process in your own lab to support the job to each individual student. Well, so that's the all 4 modules. After that, we hope that all the students pass all the assessment and meet the attendance requirement of 80%. So finally, the student will award a postgraduate certificate in biomedical, in bioinformatics for medical laboratory technologies. Well, in this program, we would invite experienced academics and professionals to teach. So those are from local universities, clinical laboratories, like those professors, like those scientific officers, medical doctors, and we also invite those people from local industry, from those biotech companies, and also private labs who are also who apply bioinformatics as well to teach and demonstrate in our program. Well, module 1, which, if you remember, is about genetic and technical different technologies applied in clinical lab. So this module will be taught mainly in the classroom as well as in the biomedical lab. Well, module 2, 3, and 4, because there are a lot of components related to computer setting, software, and data analysis. So this will be mainly delivered in a computer lab. Well, we have our online platform to support you to study. All those data examples can be uploaded and downloaded from our e-learning platform. And students will be provided library cards. So you have this this additional resource from the University of Hong Kong library. You can borrow books, you can find useful information, and you can access online resources. Well, minimal entry requirements. So if you have interest in this program, what do we require you to have before you apply to this program? Well, I would say it's not challenging. The majority of MLTs should have met the requirement already. So we require students to hold a degree in either medical laboratory science, in biology, in medicine, or related area, like biotechnology is a related area, or life science. Biochemistry is okay from a recognized institution. And the student should be a registered medical laboratory technologist in Hong Kong. Either part 1 or part 2, it doesn't matter, but should be a registered MLT. Well, if your qualification was not get from teaching from a institution which teaching language is English, then we have a general English requirement. Well, if you say I'm not an MLT or I got some other qualification, does it mean that I cannot study this program? No, not really. For example, if you are other healthcare professionals in such setting, in hospital, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, if you have interest to study, you can still apply to us, and based on each individual qualification, we will consider case by case. So if you have any question, anything you would like to know, please feel free to call us for further inquiry. Yeah, thank you. I think that's the end of my talk. Thank you very much.